Welcome back to WRPL. It's the podcast where we talk about all the things we were watching, reading, playing, and listening to. My name's Ben.
And I'm Steve, not Nick.
Welcome back, Steve.
Oh, thanks. Sorry, everybody. I know you've been missing me.
It's been, not even just Nick filling in. There's like 2 weeks that we didn't do anything.
Yeah, it's been a busy time for old Steve over here, but I'm happy to be back, happy to talk about movies, and because I've had so much free time, not free time, but I've had a longer gap in between talking about things, I actually have stuff to talk about.
Cool. Well, let's talk about a couple little things first. We have a trailer.
Before we roll?
Questions. Oh, no, we can roll first. Yeah, that's fine.
All right,
go ahead. Do it.
I'm going to say it's going to be high because I'm back,
You're
baby.
building up?
I'm back, baby. I've been saving all this juju for a couple weeks. Is juju offensive?
No, I don't think so.
Good. 11.
Okay.
It did hit the phone, but that's fine.
All right.
Higher than lower. 16.
Woo!
Deece.
All right. So I just want to ask, do you know the Always Sunny podcast? It's been a year since the last time they uploaded. I figure they stopped for the writer strike.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard if they're bringing it back at all? Because they got a lot of seasons to get through and some crucial episodes I want to hear about.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I'm not sure if they're in the middle of writing stuff or, Rob is busy with his Wrexham thing, or if they were just kind of like once, or maybe the podcast was just kind of becoming a hassle, or if it was just like, guys, we did it. It was fun. It was, but now we're just like, we're kind of over it. I don't know. I as far as I can tell, they haven't spoken too much on it, if at all, which is a shame because I loved every episode of that. So I hope they come, even if it was just like they came back for one more and just like, hey, this is the last one.
We're done.
We're done. We just wanted to like go out and give you guys like a farewell episode or whatever.
I would think, with how many ads were on those fucking episodes, like they were making probably some pretty good money. But not that they're hurting for money. But
I was gonna say, I don't know if they care about money.
Up.
Yeah.
Anywho, well, guys, bring it back. Okay, next thing. Question. You know what?
Possible answer.
I'll save that question for when you bring it up. There was a Hellboy trailer.
Yeah.
There's actually a new Hellboy coming out.
I had no idea.
I knew it was in talks. I didn't think they cast it, filmed anything. And it's like only 5 years since the last one, which in retrospect, it's not the worst movie out there. It's not good. There's a lot of bad stuff in it, but it could have been a lot worse. But this movie, this looks like a fan film.
It does.
This looks real cheap.
Yep.
And Hellboy himself looks real cheap. And I know this is young Hellboy. Mm-hmm. He's not old and grizzled, so he's not this big hulking guy, but it looks like, I guess it's pretty accurate to the comic, but it just looks like shit. I'm not impressed with this at all.
Yeah, because I don't know enough about it, like the fact that the trailer just came out of left field. I didn't know this movie was being made. I don't know anyone in it. I just thought it was a fan-made thing because how can it not be? But the fact that it's like on IGN and Rotten Tomato trailers and it's like all this stuff, it's like, oh, Hellboy's back. And from what I can tell, it seems like, at least from what I saw, people were like, oh, this looks cool. And the fact that it's like a smaller, it's not this big budget thing. It's more about like the mystery and like, they're not taken to the city. It's not some big end of world thing. It's more of a like detective story. I was like, that could be a cool angle, but it still should look good. Yeah, it should look like an actual movie, not a fan film.
And it's one of the directors of the Crank movies and Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. So I figured it would have a little more.
Which I don't think either of those movies are inherently poorly directed.
Yeah, they got an energy to them.
Yeah.
Whether you like them or not. And this, I don't know. I don't feel anything. Everything just looks blue and boring. Oh, well.
Yeah, weird choice.
Yeah. And, like, really, you think, like, nobody gave a shit. After Guillermo del Toro wasn't given a chance to do his part 3, everybody said, oh, we don't care. So they, that last movie didn't make very much money. And then they're going to try again? And I know the comic creator is more working with this because he wasn't super thrilled with those, apparently. Which I've heard conflicting things. I'm hearing he said, "Hey, do whatever you want with the source material because we have this adaptation. You could have your adaptation. Go nuts." But then now I'm hearing, oh, he hated the other 3 movies so much because they diverted from the source material. So I don't know what's true. I just know he's working more closely with this one. I consumed a new thing, and I don't think it's available anymore. I think it's already come and gone, so I don't know why I'm mentioning it. But the Coke Freestyle machines, at one point they had pineapple, but it was only like regular Coke and Fanta or something.
You're talking about the Coke machines that you can select, like Barks root beer, whatever, and mix in
Vanilla
whatever
root
flavors
beer,
and
grape.
Coke. Yeah.
Coke Freestyle. That's what they're called.
Okay. Just for those who don't know, because I didn't know that was the official name of the...
It's only been around for like 10, 15 years.
Alrighty.
But they had peach. And so you could get peach Coke or peach Coke Zero. So thank God I had the Coke Zero one. It was fucking great. It was really good.
Peach Coke?
Peach Coke, yeah. So I'm a Diet Dr. Pepper guy. It's what I always get. That's why I love those freestyle machines because they do have so many diet options and so many fast food places just, you get your Diet Coke and that's it. Or your Coke Zero.
Yeah.
And it was great. I loved it. Every time I came across one, I didn't get my regular Diet Dr. Pepper. I got Peach Coke Zero. It was fucking sweet, but it's gone already because I think it's now Olympic flavors, which are always just...
What's an Olympic flavor?
Yeah, it's like cherry vanilla bobsled, and it's just cherry vanilla Coke. It's just very generic. But hopefully they bring it back or make it a permanent thing.
Blueberry shot put.
Exactly. They have strawberry Dr. Pepper, and that's disgusting. Who wants strawberry Dr. Pepper? Just keep peach as a thing. I don't know. Whatever. All right, let's get started. Our main topic, we're going to talk about 2 new releases this week, Kill and MaXXXine, with a couple other things. Steve, since you have so much stuff to catch up on, why don't you give us Steve's little shit, so rapid fire or something.
All right, welcome back to Steve's Little Shits Corner, where I, just...
shit in the corner.
Just shit in the corner, and while I do that, tell you about the things. So I have 3 books on here. One is a book I had never heard of, but a woman I work with, she reads fantasy, and she's like, "Oh, I really enjoyed this one." It's called Mystic and Rider by Sharon Shinn. It's in a fantasy world where a group of people are on a quest and to find out sort of like what's going on in the country and report back to the king, because there is this religious sect that is trying to get rid of mystics, and mystics are essentially people with magical abilities. And your lead character, she can manipulate fire. There's a person in the group who can kind of like tell when a person is like lying and kind of read emotions and can sense things. Like he's kind of like the most useful one in the group. There's one who can there's 2 that can kind of shapeshift and they like, change their clothes or like turn into a wolf, and so that helps with like spying and stuff. It's kind of very reminiscent of the Robin Hobb style of writing, kind of Assassin's Apprentice style. It's not the most fast-paced, action-heavy book, but I really enjoyed the characters. It kind of surprised me because I was worried when she handed it to me. I was like, "Oh, this is book 1 in a series of 5," and I'm like, "Well, I'm going to feel bad if I don't like this and don't read the other ones." But while it isn't like my favorite book I ever read, I ended up having a good time. And
continue?
I am, but it's gonna be one of those franchises that I don't feel bad about, like reading 1, waiting several months or a year, then reading book 2.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to sprinkle in between other series I read.
When you don't have anything locked ready to go, you have these backups.
Yeah. So if you like fantasy and a group of fun characters on a quest, and it might be for you.
What was it called again?
Mystic and Rider by Sharon Shinn.
Mystic and Rider?
Mystic and Rider. Not writer like author, like rider like you're riding a horse. Yep. Second book, I read Full Moon, Book 2 of the Dresden Files. Book 1, I mostly enjoyed. This is an audiobook I listened to, just for clarity. This one, the first book was about him on a case involving a necromancer. This one was about him on a case... For those who don't know, Dresden is a wizard in modern-day Chicago who works with the police to solve like supernatural crimes.
Is that what the Dresden Files are?
Yes, essentially.
Oh, I thought it was like a Perry Mason Columbo sort of old-timey just detective.
Well, I mean, he's a wizard detective.
But it's
like,
in our world?
But it's in modern society, yeah.
Huh. What year?
Or at least modern society when the books came out, so like 90s, early 2000s era.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhere along there. But anyway, book 2 involves werewolves. I wasn't as I couldn't remember events as well, and there were definitely a lot more characters in this one than in the first one. So sometimes I would get kind of lost. But I think what I really enjoy about these books is how it talks about lore and like the rules of magic and the rules of certain monsters and everything, which is you're kind of getting an education in the supernatural, which I think like that part of the books you would really enjoy, because there's essentially 4 types of werewolves, and there's like just the ones that kind of basically just look human but are more feral and can't control themselves. There's the ones who can just turn into wolves. There's the ones who like have control and can turn into more like a half human, half werewolf kind of vibe. And then there's ones who are just like I think your standard like crazy ass big werewolves who are the most dangerous. They're called like loop gurus or something like that. I don't know if that has like some significance in terms of like
sounds like cereal, you know.
But they're the most dangerous. They basically become like super strong and tear everybody apart and kill everything, and they're very scary. But it involved like a biker gang of werewolves or something, and like trying to take down Falcone, who's like this crime lord who was in the first book, but they brought him back for this one. As to like the main goal of the werewolves, I don't really remember. But James Marsden, who you might know from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, he played Spike. He does the voice of Dresden Files and all the other books. He does a great job. So while entertaining, not like super deep books, and Dresden's kind of like seems like a character who's written as like so fucking cool, but also like doesn't play by society's rules, but treats women real nice, or at least claims to. Whatever. It's very. It's not deep, but in terms of like this, if you're into supernatural stuff, it's a pretty fun read.
I'm very surprised. I thought this was a series from the 50s, and I had this completely wrong. And then maybe I'm getting it mixed up with something else that sounds like Dresden Files.
Yeah.
But...
I mean, I guess magic and wizards kind of. One of the things he constantly talks about is he doesn't drive if he doesn't have to. A lot of electronics don't work. He doesn't get an elevator if he doesn't have to because magic interferes with a lot of like electricity. So it's like, he's not always, he can't always talk to someone on a cell phone or whatever. It's kind of, even though there is modern day, it's not like we can't solve all of our problems with cell phones or the internet or whatever, because he can't necessarily always be around it.
Okay. I guess they made
at least in the earlier books. Maybe something happens down the line, because there's, I think, currently 16 of them.
It looked like it. And then they made a TV series, 2 seasons.
They did. And
or at least one season of 13 episodes, and it says season 2 has 1 episode. So
bummer.
So maybe it's like didn't do so well, they were going to cancel it, and they're like, give them one more as like a finale, and then they just called it season 2.
Yeah, it does feel like the kind of show that could be, maybe like a Sherlock BBC thing where you have one episode that's just like a full-length film, or you do, a season of 9 episodes, and in the first every 3 episodes is one book, or something like that. It definitely feels like this could have been a successful TV series, if done right. I just don't know if it was the timing, or like it wasn't like fantasy's a lot bigger now, so maybe it has a more would have a bigger audience than it did back then. I don't know. But entertaining, but not super deep.
Okay.
My third book, another audiobook.
This guy fucking reads, man.
Yeah, I'm crushing it. Third book, Return of the King.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't need to talk about this too much, because I talk about Lord of the Rings all the time. Unfortunately, it wasn't the Andy Serkis version. It was some other dude. But
is it the other dude from the last one that you listened to?
From the first one, I think so.
Because Andy Serkis, you only listened to...
Two Towers.
Oh, I thought it was Fellowship that you did.
I don't remember now.
I'm pretty sure it was Fellowship, because it was like, well, you want to listen to the Andy Serkis one because this is the Gollum one, and this other guy didn't do it justice. Well, I mean, I could be wrong.
I don't remember. I think it was Two Towers. Whatever. Point is, anyway, Return of the King. Good stuff. It was interesting to see basically like everything up to the first half of the book was following Aragorn and Pippin and like their journey up into like right as they like to get to the Black Gates. It's just like, imagine you're watching The Return of the King and you don't get any Sam Frodo stuff until like 2 hours into your 3 hour movie or 2.5 hours into your 3 hour movie, and then it cuts back to Sam and Frodo, and then you see their entire journey.
And does it start like in the movies where they're leaving, like Faramir had them, right, and lets them go?
No, so the Two Towers, the book, ends with
Shelob, right?
Yeah, with Frodo getting stabbed by Shelob, Sam defeating Shelob, and then the orcs taken away, which is like a great way to end that book, because it's just like, oh no, Frodo is taken by the enemy, and now you have to wait for the third book. It's a very cool way to do that. But so, I mean, that chunk of Return of the King, though, from Sam saving Frodo to the end, is like 45 minutes. But that's like the back half of the book, until you get to the part where, you know, they defeat Sauron, the ring gets thrown into Mount Doom, spoilers, and then, you know, now all the stories mesh again. But once again, this book pretty much hits every major part of the movie. It doesn't miss a lot. Obviously, some things were moved around, things changed here and there, but
it'd be funny if you just actually read the novelization,
of the movie. That'd be really fucking funny. But, you know, there was talk of just like, oh, well, they took Lord of the Rings and turned it into an action-adventure franchise when that's really not what the book is about. And I can kind of see that. But, like, the fucking movie is the book. Like, it is... It's all there.
It's just,
and
properly edited with good pacing and flow.
Yeah. They cut a bunch of songs. They got rid of Tom Bombadil. Like,
this podcast hates Tom Bombadil.
Fuck Tom Bombadil. I'll go on record. Fuck that dude. If I see him on the street, I swear to God, I'm knocking his fucking ass out. Fucking Tom Bombadil. Anyway, but yeah, I think it was probably my least favorite listen of the three. And it was, I believe, the longest. And what was weird was it was a 16-hour audiobook, I believe. And then, they're getting to the end of, they throw the ring into the fire. And I was like, there's still, 6 hours of this book left. Like, what the fuck else happens?
Yeah.
I mean...
Those 6 endings in the movie.
But it was just, the last 4 hours was, the appendices and going through all of that. I was like, oh, thank God, because it's we're at the end. They're going on the boats or they're about to do the scouring of the Shire, where the hobbits fight back. And there's a version where I'd like to see that in animated form or something. I want to see that come to life, but at the same time, I get why they got rid of that in the movies, because it did feel tacked on at the end. Yeah. Especially you defeated the ultimate enemy, and now it's you got to fight the third string, or you're in a football game. It's oh, we just won the Super Bowl, but we also have to play a pickup game or whatever. This we shouldn't have to do this.
Yeah.
But anyway, so luckily it was actually a 12-hour audiobook. So because I was worried, oh fuck, I gotta get another 6 hours of this goddamn book. But anyway, so that was Return of the King. I won't go too deep on it, but if you like fantasy, everyone should check out Lord of the Rings at least once.
Have you seen that they released a couple of images from the animated Lord of the Rings movie?
Of course I have, Benjamin.
So, we know, hand-drawn animation, at least it looks like it, anime looking. They could have gone a multitude of ways. I'm kind of glad they went this way. Looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a trailer, because I think it comes out...
This December,
yeah. Which, I feel like we should have something by now. But, I'm patient.
We're in the peak of the summer movies.
Yeah.
We're going to have big winter release trailers on these summer movies.
Maybe they'll release the same time as Ring of Power or after Ring of Power.
That'd be smart.
Coincide. Everyone's talking about this, but even though, everyone fucking hates Rings of Power, except for this guy. Anyway, I'm looking forward to anything in the world of Middle Earth.
Miranda Otto's doing the narration.
Yeah, which I think is a great choice.
Yep. She's please, I'm the one that hasn't gotten much work after these. Give me something.
Hey, she was the wife of Tom Cruise in War of the Worlds.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that, 2005?
It was 2005. Good job, Ben.
Yeah, it wasn't the same year that Return of the King came out, right?
No, Return of the King came out in December 2003.
Okay, so, yeah, she needs the work.
Yeah.
Everybody else is thriving.
I don't even know if she had a line in that movie.
She's like, I just stand here pregnant.
Doesn't matter. Anyway.
Oh, you mean in Return of the King or in War of the Worlds?
War of the Worlds. I don't know. I don't remember if she has a line or not.
That'd be weird if she didn't.
Because I know she stands there at the end.
Yeah, but there's no phone conversation of like, you gotta be a better father, Tom.
Maybe. Or like, does she drop the kids off at the beginning of the movie and like they talk and then you don't see her again until the end? Doesn't fucking matter. I like Miranda Otto. She's great.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that is Steve's little shits about books.
Nice.
Now it's time for Steve's little shits about 2 shows. Real quick, I finished Delicious in Dungeon. It took me a while, but I'm all done. I really enjoyed this series. It does still have the occasional like classic anime things that I don't necessarily love, and it is. I think I said it before in previous episodes. It's like very much like fun and easygoing, but also still very adult because there is lots of violence, like not super graphic violence, but shocking violence. Where suddenly like, oh no, like. This character is dead, and now I have to do like resurrection spells to bring them back or whatever because they got an arrow through the head or like their head was chopped off or whatever it is. I was like, oh, like their blood can fly everywhere. So it's kind of tonally weird, just because it's like, oh, this is a fun show about like a dwarf cooking, but then like someone is like brutally maimed in a fight with a monster.
Do they stay dead, or do they just always bring them back with a resurrection spell?
So most of the time. A lot of times, if they're dead, they are dead. There is like spells to bring people back to life, but there's like real resurrect. Like so.
Oh, here you go.
Well, no, it's just I don't know how spoiled you want to be because you said you weren't sure.
Yeah.
Check it out.
I mean, yeah, don't spoil anything.
I'll say that there's a character who shouldn't be brought back, but is brought back through dark magic. It's just like so. If let's say someone's body is completely gone, like all that's left is like bones. You can't bring someone back from that.
Okay.
If they like got hit in the heart with an arrow, you could bring them back with like good magic, I guess. But dark magic is like super fucking illegal, and so but you can bring someone back that way.
Like from bones?
I'll just say that.
Bones are coming back. All right.
So there is, dark evil magic that is very much frowned upon. So that may or may not become a plot point in that show. But if you like D&D, if you like fantasy, if you like charm, it's all there, and I'm looking forward to season 2. Judging from the pacing of this show and what I looked up, this covers like the first half of the entire manga. So season 2, maybe you can get a season 3, but it might just be done after 2.
Cool.
Because I think it covers the first half, which is kind of cool. Good. It does it interestingly explains like the cooking process and the monsters and how the monsters work and how the dungeon operates and how like the dungeon can be damaged by like there's a dragon in here and it destroys the city in this thing, but then there's like things called like dungeon eaters, I think, and they just kind of like reform the dungeon.
Okay.
And so like it's constantly like reshaping or like kind of healing itself, and there's some lore as to why that's all happening, but it's a fun show if you like anime and Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy, and I would recommend anyone check it out if you want something a little different than just like through the power of friendship we can defeat whatever, because there isn't any sort of, at least so far, there isn't like, oh, I have to just push past my limits and I can defeat whatever. So
I can cook the greatest souffle of all time.
So far, there's none of that. The main character might have autism, if that's okay. There's talk about that bit, like not in the show, but like on the forums, and how the voice actor of the English version portrays it, because the voice actor also has autism. So it's just kind of like a fun way of showing sort of a different character in that sense. And it's not very horny, but there is one moment where a character is like, there is some boobage going on, for lack of a better term, where I'm just like, oh, I don't necessarily need this.
Yeah, but as long as it's not the focus of every fucking episode.
It's not like super gross, but still like, it was one of those tonal things which is like, oh, I thought this was kind of like a fun show like a 13-year-old could watch. And it's like, oh no, this is a show a 13-year-old could watch.
Or 13 wants to watch.
13 wants to watch is what I should say.
Yeah, they go, Mom, it's just about cooking. It's a cartoon about cooking.
And I was like, you guys didn't need to do that. So yeah, Delicious in Dungeon. Recommend.
Good.
My last show, and then Steve's little shits is over. I believe. I watched The Bear season 3.
Oh, you did get around to it.
I did. Bear season 3, still great. I love the show. I raved about season 2. Season 3, the worst of the 3 seasons, I think. Because season 1 was such like a come out of nowhere hit and like really highly intense. And season 2 was also intense, but there was so much charm to season 2. It took a step back. It like really took all these characters who you kind of found reasons to resent or not like in season 1, and you have your main character who's just like, I'm gonna make all of you better because I need you guys to be better so I can make this dream of mine happen. And it's so charming and heartwarming and artistically done. That's like, I think season 2, like I probably said in a previous episode, is one of the best seasons of television I've ever seen. Season 3 is a step back, but not in a sense that it's like, there's a lot of people right now online who are like, season 3, I didn't like it. It's not as good as it fits perfectly with seasons 1 and 2. But I agree that it's not as good as season 1 and 2. But I think this is the setup season for season 4. It's a lot of, now we're running this restaurant and the pressure is on and everyone's miserable because we're all stressed and struggling to make this thing happen. But it's still some of the best crafted like writing and directing on television for just like people working in a restaurant. It shouldn't be this intense and almost tear-inducing and cleverly directed and character-driven stories. And it's just like, and it's just the highest form of drama. So Bear season 3, recommend. I'm done.
All right, take a drink. I'm sure you have a
I'm sorry if everyone hates my voice and I talk too long. So now I'm going to pass it over to my man Ben.
Cool. I watched it was a new release for most of America. It came out a couple weeks ago, but it seemed to be very hard to find. I was in New York City for a day, and I wanted to see Kinds of Kindness, but like I was in fucking Manhattan, and there was like no theaters playing this. When there's a limited release for a movie, it's always in New York and LA. I was there, and I couldn't find it. So it finally has a wider release, and I saw Kinds of Kindness. Yorgos Lanthimos' new movie that, it's like less than a year than Poor Things came out, and he's already got another one. But of course, that was the writer's strike. It held things off. Otherwise...
and just real quick, the trailer for Kinds of Kindness looked interesting, but if you ask me, so what's the movie about?
What is it about?
The trailer tells you absolutely nothing.
No, and I haven't seen The Lobster. I haven't seen Dogtooth. And I hear this is a little closer to Dogtooth and like The Lobster's closer to Poor Things, where you can follow a story pretty simply, even if it's weird.
Yeah.
Crazy concept, you kind of know what's going on.
But you've seen Killing a Sacred Deer,
yes.
The Favorite.
I have not seen The Favorite.
Oh, you've not seen, I've seen The Favorite.
Which is,
and you saw Poor
when you
Things.
look at all of his things, like The Favorite seems so out of place there.
A little bit, yeah.
But I'd watch it, and I want to watch...
I like The Favorite. I'm not sure if you'd like it, but I like The Favorite.
Period pieces are not generally my thing.
Yeah, but it's different.
Okay. No, really?
Yeah. Not super weird different, but definitely different.
I love Killing of a Sacred Deer. One of the first times I ever saw Barry Keoghan in something and went, that dude's weird. I really like Poor Things. I understand why people may not like it. It's a little, I don't know. Some people think it's very empowering. Some people say it's a step back for women in film. Whatever. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very funny movie. Kinds of Kindness is back to his kind of weird shit. It's 3 separate stories with the same cast in all of them, for the most part. You get a couple of bit players like Hunter Schafer is in the third one, but she's not in any of the others.
Okay, got it.
Which I would think, what a waste. She's fucking great and everything. So 3 separate stories, and be prepared, the runtime is 2 hours and 44 fucking minutes long. It almost turned me away. My roommate wanted to see it, I wanted to see it, but in order to not have our day wasted, we had to get up early and then sit in a 3-hour movie. And then, of course, like all Regals, 28 minutes of previews and ads, and it's just, like, it's so frustrating. And we even didn't show up on time. We took our sweet-ass time to get there, and we still had to sit through so much stuff. But anywho, I'm not going to get spoilery on these. I'll just do a basic synopsis of what these are. And kind of every story is about like the lengths people will go to make other people happy. You know, you're performing these kinds of kindness. You know, they're not your typical acts of kindness. They're kind of like kindness. From an outsider's perspective, what you're doing is potentially very, very weird or very wrong, but in your worldview, you're doing a very good thing.
So at the end of your description of all the 3 different stories, I want 3 different grades, and then a grade for the whole.
Okay. Like, you want letter grade?
Yeah. So, like, if the first one's an A, and the second one's a C, and the third one's a B+, like, you know, give a grade that either, like, how you would even those out. I don't know what the word. Or
the average.
The average, yes, thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word. Or it's just like, you know, I'm giving it a higher grade because as separately they didn't work, but as a whole they worked really well, or none of them worked really well together at all. So it's a F. Whatever.
The first one is about Jesse Plemons works for Willem Dafoe, and he has to do everything he says. Who he's dating was picked out by Willem Dafoe, whether he could have kids or not, what he eats daily, whether he has sex or masturbates. It's like everything he does is written and predetermined for him.
Now, is this in the quest to take over for him one day, or is it he gets paid a lot, or do they just never explain it?
It's just, he seems like he's Mr. Businessman, and it feels like, oh, he's grooming him to be his replacement, but it's never really said.
Okay.
You just kind of...
ambiguous, guy.
You're dropped into all these stories where, you know, maybe 5 more minutes of backstory could help, 5 more minutes at the end for an explanation would help. You don't get that. You just get this little snippet.
Understood.
So when he's asked to do something that he doesn't want to do, things start spiraling, and he wants to try to get back into his good graces. Okay? Second one, Jesse Plemons is a cop, and his wife is like a marine biologist. She studies the reefs, and her boat goes down, and she's missing at sea. And he's kind of losing it. And they find her, and she was on a deserted island, and 2 of her lab partners are dead. One of them lost his leg, and he's going to be in the hospital, but she seems more or less okay. And everybody's happy, and there's a weird little bit that I'll spoil, but I don't know his name, but they're friends with 2 other actors in it. And I guess they just like they sleep with each other. And it's like they have a nice dinner, and it's like, hey, so shall we go back to the bedroom and fuck? And before they find her, they're trying to comfort Jesse Plemons. It's like, you know, what would really cheer me up? Let's watch some of our old movies, because they record it, and they don't really go into it. They're just a swinging couple, and then the 2 guys, they're partners as cops. So they're cop partners, and they swap wives, and they all sleep with each other. Just a fun little detail in it. So she's found, she returns, and she's acting a little weird. Her shoes don't fit. She's eating chocolate. She never liked chocolate before, and Jesse Plemons is convinced this is not his wife. Third one is Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons are like a team, and they're interviewing people, and they're interviewing Hunter Schafer. They like do this measuring of her like distance between nipples and belly button. It's like they have a checklist of things that if this person qualifies, and they want her to bring back someone from the dead. And she can't do it. So it's like, you're not the one. They go back to their like compound, and they're part of a cult that Willem Dafoe runs. They only drink the water that him and his wife like cry into.
Jesus.
And they're trying to find the Messiah or someone who can do this. And Megan Qualley has come up and said, hey, I think it's my sister. Here's all the things that you say is required of them. This is why I think it's going to be. And so it's about that. So all of them kind of have interconnecting things. Like 2 of them they'll talk about like being able to eat or eating fish. You know, or the first and the third one will have a dog connection or something. Like they all like kind of there's not one overarching thing, except for a character who is dead in all of them. So I don't know if they are actually connected,
Yeah.
or if it's just a running thing through all of it. Um, my favorite one was probably the second one with the missing wife. I thought it was really kind of fucked up, and I want to know more.
Okay.
I'd say the worst one is probably the first one.
Okay.
Even though that one makes the most sense, you could piece things together. And then I think the third one is pretty good. They're all pretty funny too, but not really. Like, you shouldn't really be laughing, but it'll make you chuckle once in a while. So if I'm given ratings, I have to compare them to each other, really. I'd say the story for the second one is like a B. I'll say B plus B, B minus. They're all pretty good, interesting stories, but you don't really know all you want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And as stated before, I'm not a very smart person who could figure these things out. I just know it's trying to do acts of kindness or doing whatever it takes to win the favor of people.
Right.
And I, all in all, really enjoyed it. I gave it a B plus. It's a good time. Yes, the run time is very long, and after each segment, it does a little credit roll, and then okay, well, that 55 minutes is done. Let's go on to the next 55 minutes. And then when the second one's done, you're just like, fuck, get me out of here. I'm done with all this. But it's such an interesting story that you're back into it. So it just felt like you sat and you binged 3 episodes of Game of Thrones or something. You just really got to.
That was my next question, because there's things like Tarantino, who has like chapters in his movies, but I don't think that would work episodically on television.
Sure.
Where like this, do you feel like this would have worked better as like one episode a night over a weekend, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday? These come out, and then you like talk about it.
Yeah,
it works better as
it should have been a show.
Okay,
and then you could have 4 or 5, 6, a couple more.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a movie, you either got to trim the fat, or you cut out one story completely and then bulk up the other two. But hey, this is the stories he wanted to tell. So be it.
I mean, do you feel like that in that 55 minutes apiece, that the full I know you said like one you kind of wanted a little bit more time with, but do you feel like they said all they needed to say in that 55 minutes, or do you think like, they could put another 30 minutes in here and make it a full hour and a half?
Only for dummies like me to be like, this is why this is happening. Because at the end of the second one, it's like, here's this big reveal, and you go, what?
Okay.
This is cool, but like, is this an episode of The Twilight Zone? I don't get it. The first one definitely got. Second one is pretty definitive, even though I don't know what the cult's goal is with this person. The story they're telling is kind of self-contained, but I think the middle story, even though it's the most ambiguous one and I'm the most confused about, is the most interesting of all of them.
Understood.
But all in all, I like it. I don't think it's winning any awards. I think it's a little too weird for people. Poor Things is a good level of weird. You know exactly what's happening. It just kind of, it looks kooky. All right, back to you.
All right.
You got something we already talked about,
Something
right?
we already talked about, so we're only going to spend a couple minutes on it.
All right.
I watched A Quiet Place. Day one. You and Nick talked about it last week. I have yet to listen to the episode. I'm sorry, so I don't know your thoughts on it. So here's my quick review. I really enjoy this franchise. I think this movie fits pretty well into it. I think it's the weakest one of the 3. I think you lose a lot of the horror of this movie just from like seeing so much of the monsters. And while they are scary, they are so like boring looking too. I feel like until you get those big close-ups of their like mouth and everything and their head. I think Lupita was great. She's great, and she's just always great. And I liked her relationship with Joseph Quinn. That being said, I don't think that the story did a whole lot for me. Like the moments that were supposed to make me cry didn't really work for me. Like the moment at the end where they're like dancing at the dad's like place. I thought that was very nice. Having pizza. I like that they got to the pizza place and it was burnt down, so they just had to get like pizza from wherever else. I liked that she's like, no, like you knew from the get go, this chick is not surviving this movie. And so I like that we saw the beginning. I thought it was being in the city with all the noise was cool, but you know, it was the other two were just more effective horror films, but this kind of felt like more. It's like almost more like an action movie,
with not a lot of action,
but with no action.
It's shot like an action movie.
Yeah,
but don't you agree that they don't do anything clever?
No,
like, you're like, oh, we're gonna tie a can to a rat and send it down a street, and then they run away. Or like I mentioned on the podcast, we got to go into the subway, and then there's a runaway train that goes by, and it's so loud that it freaks out all the aliens, so it gives them a chance to get away. There's nothing like that. It's just we gotta run, we run, and then we get away.
The only scene I think relatively close to that I really liked was the military actually like using tactics, like using the helicopters to draw them away, and then everyone, like they're like get to the boats because these aliens don't fucking understand English. And so I was like, okay, great. But then when they all just like funnel together, and then she's walking the other direction, and she, you know, it's just the close-ups of like the wheels going over glass and people's feet, and like someone coughing and just like all this stuff. It's like, oh my god, this would drive me crazy because like you guys have to know you're making enough noise.
Yeah, but hey,
and then it comes back and it's just a horror show.
I'm surprised that they are so good at staying quiet because they don't know the rules really. These things just seem to be attacking anybody. You don't necessarily Jimon Hansu. They seem to like have gotten a letter from the aliens going like, "Hey, we hear."
You have Lupita who gets knocked out in the first like 12 minutes of the film, and then she wakes up, and everyone's just kind of like, yo, you need to shut up. Yeah. And then we all figured it out.
I guess it's a nice shorthand. Like, we don't have to go through the rules again with other people. Yeah. Let's just fucking go.
One thing I did like is anytime that the aliens did show up, they kind of came through like a storm. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. Like, it just shows how fast and powerful they are. And how much noise they make. I'm not 100% sure how they like differentiate between each other and like other sounds. Yeah. Another thing I liked because I was just thinking, like, you know, these things just seem to just kill indiscriminately. It doesn't seem like they're eating anybody. Yeah. Like, what's their food? Do they need a food source or whatever? We get like a nest with that. Do we see for the first time? That I don't know if it's like a nest of eggs or like it's just like where they develop food. It doesn't tell you really anything, but I just like seeing another part of their culture, for lack of a better term.
A little bit more of that, though. Yeah. I thought we should, like, Joseph Quinn should have seen like this, because my roommate looked it up. They kill people and then they drag our bodies and pile them up, and our mass helps create their food. It's like they grow it out of us, and it would have been nice if he turned a corner and there's an alleyway and there's just this mountain of all the dead.
Great, because that was another question I had about this that kind of drove me nuts. It's like, so in the previous Quiet Place movies, you were in big open spaces, very few like small casts, so you didn't really see a bunch of death or anything. But in this movie, there's literally like millions of people who live here, and then in the span of 24 hours, all these creatures come and kill almost everybody. Yeah. But you never see any fucking bodies anywhere. Yeah. I didn't realize that's what they did. Yeah. The movie doesn't explain that. Nope. And like you said, that would have been really cool to just see a mountain of dead bodies, or just like, oh, well, they dragged his legs away, but he's left his torso behind, or whatever. Because it's just like, where are the bodies? Yeah. Like, this movie should be, if it's not going to be scary, it should at least be like bloodier and more violent than the other ones. So I'm just going to say I'll give it a C+.
I gave it a C+. I think I gave it a C-. It's more of the same, and it doesn't do anything better. And I
just think like it's just fine. I agree it doesn't do anything better. But I don't think it's poorly made or acted, or like this. I don't think the story is all that bad. It's just not what I had hoped it would be. And for that, it's just a C+.
If we get another one, I want to see it from the military's perspective, just so we could have a little more action. Yeah. And then have scientists capture one and be able to do tests, and just so we could have people spout exposition and be like, oh, they must have come from a planet with a high density of gravity, and blah, 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 you know, just so we could get a little more info on them. But I have a question about these monsters.
Okay, hit me.
All right. Who's going to win in a fight? an alien from A Quiet Place or a graboid from Tremors. They're both sound monsters. You know, if you don't make any sort of vibration sounds around the graboids, they don't know where you are.
Mm.
Same with the Quiet Place monsters. If they have to go one-on-one, who's winning?
I would say that I think the Quiet Place monsters would ultimately win.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think like the ass blasters or whatever, yeah, they have the ability to like fly. So
I'm
maybe,
just talking about the worms.
but just
Just the
okay,
worms.
just talking the worms.
Yep.
I think if it's just the element of surprise that the graboids can do quite a bit, but the they are stuck underground
Mm-hmm.
in terms like they're not able to climb walls or whatever.
No,
So
but
they're
they have their little tentacles that come out of their mouth.
sure. I just mean like the Quiet Place monsters have more versatility in terms of like traversal and they're faster.
Yeah, sure.
But let's just say that the graboids are able to get them. I think. Assuming that their jaws have the strength to crush these things and kill them, because it seems like tanks and missiles and
Yeah.
bullets are hard to kill them unless their heads are open.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if one graboid comes up, kills one, that sound will get the others, and I think that the Quiet Place monsters have enough strength to just like jack that
Mm-hmm.
graboid up the second it pops out. I think
But if it's just one-on-one, no other
one on
Quiet
one,
Place, because
I might give it to the graboid.
we don't know how tough they are. We've seen them take bullets and everything and seem to be okay, but maybe they're strong against bullets, but having their arms crushed or twisted, maybe they snap off easy, or you start pulling them underground, they suffocate. They can't swim,
Yeah,
and they drown. So maybe same thing with that.
but I would also argue that um, the graboids do make sound. I think that if
Mm-hmm.
the Quiet Place monsters could like because the sand moves or
Yeah.
whatever, it's like, oh, I can see where this dude's coming. As soon as he pops out, I'm gonna jump back and cut its little graboid or big graboid head off.
Yeah, but it's like I can see if they're just because they move really fast underground, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just doing figure eights. The Quiet Place monster doesn't know how to attack it. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
I can't see them digging, or even if they do, they've already moved away. And I think he would be in a panic, and he would be able to like sneak attack and at least grab them and start pulling them under. But the graboids are not nearly as armored. They have a little bit of a thick skin, but they get taken out by bullets. So I
It's
can
kind of like
see
a mongoose versus a python or like a
sure
snake, like
Cobra, yeah,
cobra. Yeah, like either one could win.
yeah.
It's just a matter of who wants it more.
Yeah, and who gets that first good strike?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just figured two sound monsters going at each other. Yeah.
It was a good question, Ben.
All right, thank you. Okay, we got the last two things, right? Is that it?
Uh, yes.
All right. So we had a new movie coming out of India called Kill, being described as like a Die Hard meets the Raid.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you could, I guess, say throw a snow piercer because the word, it has a train in it,
Sure.
and you got to go cabin to cabin. But it's pretty much a story about a man and a woman who love each other and can't be together. They're going to run away once they get to, I think they said New Delhi. I think
I don't
they're
remember.
headed, they're heading somewhere. But he surprises her by getting on the train early, and it just so happens an enormous family of thieves gets on and starts robbing the whole place. And then
Hilarity ensues.
our hero and his buddy, they got to start, stabbing people and shoving their faces into toilets and really start fucking them up to save the day.
Mm-hmm.
We saw this last night.
Yep.
I wish Nick saw it with us.
I do
he
too.
loves these sorts of things. He loves the Raid. We all love the Raid.
Yeah.
He
loves revenge.
He likes revenge.
Revenge
he likes
action
martial
films.
arts. Yeah. This is right up his alley. Apparently, this is the bloodiest, goriest Indian movie ever made, which I'd believe it.
Okay.
Because I haven't seen a ton of their movies, but they don't really seem to go with blood and guts when it comes to their violence.
Mm-hmm.
Someone will get shot up a bunch of times, but it's just a bunch of squibs. They'll
Sure.
do big special effects, but it's never really a lot of, visceral stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I like this movie. I think it was a good time. It's not the greatest story.
Mm-hmm.
but I like this more than Monkey Man. I think Monkey Man's a better made movie.
Sure.
But I will, if I had to choose which one to watch in a year, I'm picking Kill.
Okay.
I can't think of any action scene in Monkey Man that is good as any of the action in this. This action's maybe a little repetitive, but nothing stood out in Monkey Man besides it's a well-made, good-looking movie.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is a little flat compared to other things, but a lot more fun.
Okay.
You disagree?
Well, here's the thing. I really didn't like this movie the first 45 minutes. Essentially, when the title card came up.
Okay.
I was not super into it because, like you said, the story's not interesting. I don't think there's any sort of like inspired directing. I think there's a lot of like awful dialogue choices.
Sure. And really funny music cues.
Weird music cues.
But that's probably very standard for them. For us, it's like, oh, hey, Mr. Hero, and he turns around and like a guitar starts strumming.
Yeah.
It feels silly. It feels like a parody.
Yeah, and then like anytime there's any sort of like big moment or whatever, it cuts to his face like looking sad or whatever, and there's this big music cue to show like, hey guys, emotion.
Yeah, this is what you're supposed to feel right now.
This is acting right now. Mm-hmm. And it just felt cheap. And I don't want to like diminish a country's artistic form or whatever, because I don't know, because I haven't seen a ton, but it just seems like they watched American movies and just like, okay, well, this is how you do it, but they haven't picked up all the techniques that we've learned over the years.
I think that's a lot of countries, though. They see
what
we do.
I'm not putting that all on them. I'm just saying, like, from the limited experience I've had, it seems like maybe that's what this director kind of Anyway, I didn't think any of like your hero, I don't think he was a good actor.
Yeah.
The like sort of main villain of the movie, I really liked him. I thought he was good. I thought he was having fun. He was charming, but clearly like a psycho. He was the only one in this movie I like really liked. The main here, Amrit's like best friend, I kind of thought he was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like as a character, he was giving nothing other than best friend.
Yep. And mustache.
Yeah, you had the occasional like train passenger who like kind of joins the team here and there, but like also like got nothing. There's no character work in this other than your villain and your hero. I will give credit to the movie for killing off like multiple of the good characters along with the bad guys, but just from a filmmaking standpoint, I just didn't care for this movie all that much, and from an action standpoint, which is what we're really here for. Like, I can let a lot of that stuff go because like I'm just here for the action sequences. This movie felt like it was 2.5 hours to me, and it was only an hour and 44.
It does keep going
because it just keeps going, and I feel like all the action scenes were essentially the same. There are some good, fun kills. And I don't think the choreography was like bad, but it's all choreography I've seen before. Also, the layout of the train, I couldn't tell which direction they were going. I had no idea how this train operated. And this was like a 20, 30 car train, but it seemed like the way the movie described it, like, oh no, it takes place over four passenger cars.
And who's locked behind what door? Which way did they retreat to? Are they in the front and the back?
Yeah,
I could not keep track of that.
If it's only 4 cars long, I couldn't follow where everyone was at any given time, because it's not like, oh, we're at the back of the train, we need to get to the front, or it's like, you look at something like Bullet Train. Yes, that train is bigger and more interesting, and but like every time they go into a new car, it was a different looking car with like clear features, and anytime they're going between, like, the only time you see like the same sort of stuff is, oh, this is the downtime where we're going through the passenger cars, and now we're in the dining car, the like storage car, whatever. This has none of that. It all essentially looked like the same rooms to me.
Yeah, and I'm sure that is just because they have the one set you're using over and over again, keeping it cheap.
Sure.
But following the flow of where everyone is supposed to be was very hard.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite follow that.
And and this is something you and I have talked about before, but it's like he kept doing the thing of, oh, we capture the hero character, and then someone's just holding him, and then while the bad guys are talking about their evil plan, it gives him a second to kill the guy who's holding him, and then get away, and then they have to regroup, and it did that 4 times, and it was driving. It's like after he escaped the second time, make sure you just kill him.
Yeah, you cut his feet off, you cut his hands, you do something, but it's always just like, no, don't kill him. We could use him. Like, yeah, but what about his legs? You don't need those. Like, they're constantly just
I got that reference.
one dude with a tiny little knife, and then they kill someone important, and it gives them all the power and meaning to get the upper hand over and over and over again. And this dude takes so much fucking damage. And his buddy, I feel worse for him. His left side got stabbed so many. It
was almost comical.
Side. It was very funny. One thing I was thinking about on the way home, I think this probably would have gone very smoothly if our heroes kept out of it. If they just robbed everyone, they would have gotten off at the next stop and been done with it. But they start beating up people. I know the bad guys were fucking people up.
Yeah.
But then they start actually killing the bad guys, then it all goes downhill. I think if they would have stayed out of it, the bad guys would have gotten their shit, and then they would have just left, right?
Well, no, because they get to the one car where,
the dad.
The dad is. I was trying to think
and
of...
And then they changed their, let's kidnap him.
Yeah, because they recognized him and go like, and this guy's...
But I feel like they start beating people up before
they do, yeah.
And it just seems like they aggravated it to a point that maybe they could have...
If the thieves didn't kill anybody, the heroes would have just because... they were handing over their wallets and stuff. They were like, I'm okay getting robbed.
Yeah.
But then it was like, oh, wait, my fiance is in the other car. I need to make sure she's okay. And this guy just stabbed another guy. So I need to kill people in order to just make sure she's safe.
Yeah.
But if they didn't kill anybody, then I think it would have been A-okay. You're right. But that brings me to another point where there's no real, why these people they're on this train to rob a couple bucks here and there from everybody, but the movie makes it seem like they're this what's their end game here? It's they recognize the dad, and you're like, okay, we can ransom this guy because he's the head of transportation or something. But then they also talk about the dad like he's the leader of a crime syndicate. Because if he gets off this train if we get off this train without him and he survives, he's gonna have all of us killed within 24 hours. It's but the movie does nothing to set up why he is so important or how powerful. And maybe that's a cultural thing. Maybe people in the transportation department you don't fuck with them. They're the IRS or something. FBI. I don't know. It just seems
like saying, "Oh, I work in sanitation or construction," but you're actually part of the mafia, because it sounds like he's part of the government, and maybe that is. Well, he's part of the government. They have power.
Yeah.
He will instruct the military or talk to his buddies in the government to do it. But it really felt like it was code word for this is a mafia dude.
Yeah, because at the beginning of the movie, there's they have an engagement party for Amrit's girlfriend who has agreed to marry another man because her dad told her to. And there's one shot where they're all shooting off guns. Yeah, that was also kind of funny how it was done. I don't think it was intentional, but that seems like a very mafia thing.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, the rest of the movie is just oh yeah, he's the transportation guy. It's so, but what does that mean?
Yeah. And who's the guy that he's forcing her to marry? Is he important? It seems like
I think we see him for one shot.
Yeah, and then he's not even there.
Yeah.
And you have to marry him because this rival crime family we have beef with, and with this wedding we'll squash all that.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's the family that's robbing the train, and they're like, even though we went through with this marriage, we want to be in control, so we're purposely here to kill you. And it's boom, there's your actual plot.
Or you have that fiance on the train with her, and the father sees that he won't defend her because he's a little wuss or whatever. He gets killed, and so now as the audience we go, okay, well now he's out of the picture. Amrit and her can be together, but then she gets killed, and it can still flow the same way. But now the father, before she gets killed, is like, okay, this man who was in the military, he might not come from money or have influence, but he loves my daughter and he can fucking kick ass and defend her. Like, this is the kind of guy you want to marry your daughter. But then she gets killed, and then it all doesn't matter. But yeah, I don't think this movie is good. It just survives on the action, which I think is solid, and I did enjoy myself for the most part. But I would, not comparing to Monkey Man just for, the obvious. Cut that. It's just like I feel bad saying like comparing it to Monkey Man just because it's the other Indian film.
Well, it's the Indian martial arts film.
Yeah, but we could compare this movie to The Raid or John Wick.
Sure, but they're not Indian.
But the Indians are relevant, you fucker. Anyway, but back to you talking about Monkey Man. I think for me personally, I liked Monkey Man more than you did. I think I'd much rather watch Monkey Man because I think the action, while not as grand, is just as fine as Kills, and so also is a better movie. I mean, there's a lot of like downtime in Monkey Man where this is just pretty much action all throughout. So it's two completely different things, so it's not really worth comparing. But for me personally, I would much rather watch Monkey Man because I think I get more out of that than this, because there is good acting and directing and other qualifiers to make a good movie. Where this has none of that really, but just kind of like fun execution. And I love like closed space. Like, I like the ability, if you can make an interesting film of just like a few characters in a small space and make that interesting, great. I don't think they did that here. So I'm gonna go with, I want to give it a C, so I'll give it a C. I'm leaning closer to C minus, but I'll give it a C.
Yeah, I gave it a C plus because like, you're right. There's filmmaking things that it fundamentally doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a whole lot of fun. Whereas Monkey Man works because it is a really well-made movie, but it's not as interesting.
To each his own.
Yeah.
But I think Kill would have been a really fucking awesome like 30-minute film on YouTube that you saw. And it's like, man, they should make that into a full-length thing. And go like, you know what? It just worked better as the short.
Okay.
And I think you would have lost a lot of like that repetitiveness, and like you could have put all those interesting kills into kind of one tight 30-minute thing, because you really only spend 10 minutes setting up the story, and then it's just a train the rest of the movie.
Dude, it's so fast of getting into it. Like you barely get to know any of these characters.
You don't get to know them.
Already murdering people, and you're just like confused.
Yeah, he's in the military. She's the love interest. They're on a train.
Yeah,
that's about it.
And Kill.
Yeah,
and what a terrible title. It's just Kill.
Yeah,
that's.
We haven't talked about this before, and let's pitch some alternate titles.
Okay.
Maybe Kill is a good name, because it's like we got nothing else. It's like, just call it like, if your answer is Kill or anything else, do like Next Stop, or
I mean, even like
Stop
Kill.
Yeah. Or Train to Murderville. No, that's not. Yeah, that doesn't work. That wasn't an actual like suggestion. Damn.
Yeah, it's they're probably having the same problem of just you can't think of anything creative. I mean, we're very punny with our titles usually, but there's got to be
Spar in the Car.
Oh.
That's what I got for you.
Okay, Spar in the Car. Even though
it sounds like driving vehicle thing versus like a train car. Yeah. Unless you do like Spar in the train car.
Or like the Pain Train.
Oh shit.
That sounds more of like a wrestling thing.
Pain Train. Pain Train's the one.
All right, we'll call it Pain Train.
Yeah.
Because there's like heartache and all that. It's not just
Yeah. There's emotional loss. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm justifying it. Yeah, it works.
Anyway, all right. So we're going with Pain Train.
Pain Train. I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah, it wasn't a movie I would be happy I paid for, but with the Regal Pass, I had a good time watching it with you. Yeah. We shared some laughs.
Or this was like a Mystery Movie Monday thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that was pretty fun.
If this movie was any longer, I'd be furious.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But
yeah, they could.
I definitely checked my phone a couple times.
They could have cut out a few of the action scenes because some of them do get repetitive. But you save your big ones, your knife in the mouth, your lighter fluid in the mouth. Some of those, but some of the little ones, you probably could have cut it.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite scene or moment or anything? Not that it's my favorite scene, but I think my one part I appreciate it's like, how are you going to use the train in an interesting way? Like turning the one train car into like a fucking butcher shop.
Oh, that
awesome.
was amazing. That was the best.
I think that's the best part of the movie is like you did something interesting with the train car and you used it like as a trap and as a like mind fuck with the enemy.
It was psychologically
like,
messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably the best. Yeah.
Worst, all the other things I said before.
All right, let's move on to the next thing, and then let's get out of here.
All right. What's our time check right now before cuts?
We're at an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh, okay, not too bad.
I mean, we've been really good at keeping it close to an hour, so this is probably going to be like an hour and a half.
Steve's little shits is saving us this week.
All right, so our main topic is MaXXXine, Part 3 in Ty West's
X trilogy.
X trilogy, that's right. So a couple weeks ago, you saw X, you enjoyed it, and then you finally got to see Pearl.
Pearl a couple days ago, and then MaXXXine 2 days ago.
Cool. Let's.
That sounds like the same day. Pearl 3 days ago, MaXXXine 2 days ago.
Cool.
Kill yesterday.
So let's just get your thoughts out on that before we get into the Part 3. What'd you think of Pearl?
All together, didn't really care for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I appreciate what this series has done, and we'll go more into that. But it felt like from a filmmaking standpoint, it kind of felt like an early Tim Burton movie. If Tim Burton did like R-rated stuff,
because it's very vibrant.
It's very vibrant.
Yeah.
This feels like something that Helen Bonham Carter could have done in her early years, and then you have Johnny Depp as the projectionist and stuff.
Okay.
Like there's a vibe to it that I feels like if Tim Burton was really like fucked up, this could be something. I mean, he is, but
but not in a dark, spooky gothic way.
He makes dark things charming
and like kid
friendly. Where this is not that, but it had sort of that feel to it to me.
Okay.
I think she's great. I think of the 3 movies, this is probably her best performance because she really goes all out. There's times I'm just like, the way, like let's say just go to her audition scene and just like her like shrieking to like, you have to pick me.
Mm-hmm.
It almost felt over the top, but it kind of, because it kept going, it kind of, as soon as I was being pulled away from it, because like this performance is so big, it kind of pulled me back into it. And I know everyone talks about like the final shot and all that stuff, and I get it. So I think she's great in this film. I just didn't care about everything around her in this film, and I just wasn't as involved in the story. Like X and even MaXXXine, I think, are funnier and more engaging story-wise. I just, as an origin story, I didn't care for it. It didn't feel as like X was a lot more violent. I kept like waiting for the big awful things to happen, but all the like deaths weren't all that intense or anything.
Because I doubt she kept up this streak of murdering people. Like she got her husband, settled down, and then just regretted her life the rest of the time, and then picked the violence back up when X started.
Well, yeah.
So
I mean, I get that. I just mean it just feels like from the other two, I feel like X and MaXXXine complement each other very well, even though they're shot differently. Because I, from a filmmaking standpoint, I appreciate what he's doing in terms of like making this one, look like those B horror films from the 70s, and then making Pearl kind of look more like Wizard of Oz, and then making MaXXXine a little bit more like a gritty 80s Taxi Driver kind of thing. So from that point, I respect this trilogy and what it's trying to do. But just in terms of like story and like using it as a horror film, it just didn't really work for me in any sense. But I will say her confession scene to her husband, fantastic scene. Like really great acting showcase on her. Like probably one of my favorite scenes I've watched this year. Because it's just pretty much just a close up of her confessing like her whole like character to
Mhm.
like finally being honest for the first time in this movie. There's like great stuff in Pearl. It's just everything else I didn't care about.
Okay.
Didn't care about at all. So Pearl, I'm gonna give I think I gave X a B. I'm gonna give Pearl a C.
Okay.
I want to say maybe even a C minus, but
Ooh.
I'll go C
Okay.
just because she's very, very good in Pearl.
What do you think of our new Superman, David Cornsweet? He was the projectionist.
Oh, that was the same guy.
Yeah.
He was fine. I think you could have replaced him with any handsome dude,
Sure.
and it wouldn't have.
I don't know. When I saw him, I was like, that looks like Henry Cavill. He'd make a good Superman.
And you're right. Yeah, he was fine.
And did you know the porno movie they watch is a real old timey porno?
I would have guessed.
They were so sexy back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird and different. I don't see it. I can't see it being a movie anyone outside of like people who are into like indie movie kind of stuff or like film fans would really be into. I don't think the general audience could latch on to Pearl at all, but I could see them in finding reasons to like X or like MaXXXine, but Pearl I just don't think was for me.
Okay, all right. Well,
sorry if that upsets everybody.
Now I'm pissed.
Yeah.
So yeah, MaXXXine picks up a couple years after X. She's in the adult industry, and she wants to make it big. She wants to be famous. She wants to have that sort of life. She's been told ever since she was a kid, I will not live a life I don't deserve.
Correct. Yep.
And so she'll kind of do what it takes to make it in the big land of Hollywood.
But there's a serial killer on the loose.
The Night Stalker, real life Richard Ramirez Night Stalker, is out there killing people. And then when some of her friends end up dead, the police start looking at her. A private eye is sneaking around and poking at her.
And will the past come back to haunt MaXXXine?
Yep. This one I like a lot of. But
okay.
the last like 20 minutes kind of stinks the whole thing up for me. The stuff with the killer is not good. I think would have been better if there was a part 4 to this.
Okay.
And I have some pitches for how this movie could have gone a little bit later. And I think that would have been better down the line. I think it comes out of nowhere, and if you don't truly know what happens in X, like, it feels out of left field. But everything else is great. I think the look is amazing. She's really good. She doesn't get as many times to shine like she does in Pearl. She has that monologue at the very beginning when she's auditioning, and she really sells it. Everything else, she's just kind of subdued. And people monologue at her. Like, the director goes off on her a couple of times and just like, I'm a woman in the industry and I'm going to make this work, and are you going to work for me? And she just stands there going, yeah.
I'll do it.
And it's like, I want a little bit more. And so then when she's with her friend and they're talking about movies and stuff, they only have like 2 scenes together, and I wanted more from them. It just felt like all of her friends show up and then they're dead. And they show up and then they're dead. But I think it has a good look. I think the acting's pretty good. Like, I like the 2 cops. I feel like I could watch a show with them being partners. I love Kevin Bacon doing his thing.
Yeah, real sleazy and gross.
Yeah.
Fun little, like, especially since I watched it a few weeks back, like, clearly looking like Jack Nicholson in Chinatown. Even has, like, the nose patch over him.
Yeah. But all in all, what'd you think of this?
Of the 3, I think I like this one the most.
Really?
Yeah. I've never been a big horror guy, and I can see why you would like X, because it's the most horror film of the 3, where this is, like, I mean, they're all essentially slasher films, but this one, I think, more so. No.
X is.
Yeah, I was going to say X is more of a horror, but it's like, yeah, it's definitely a horror slasher. Anyway, but, like, I agree. I like the look of it. I thought she gave off Ryan Gosling in Drive vibes with the jacket, and I liked. I mean, it was a bummer that it was only in like that one quick scene where she has the makeup over her eyes. She looks really cool and badass. And I liked that, she could call her Asian, and he's just like, yeah, I'll crush this dude to death.
Dude, yeah.
And that's fine. Kevin Bacon in a sleazy villain role I thought was fun. I like that there was actually real world stuff included in this with the Night Stalker, which, looking into the movie, found out, like you said, was a real person.
Yeah.
Shocked that never, came into play at all. I thought it was going to go like a Tarantino Once Upon a Time in Hollywood kind of thing where
Sure.
she runs into him. That's just kind of background noise to this copycat thing that's kind of going on.
It's like, oh, just so happens there's two serial killers
and
happening at the same time.
Talking about the satanic panic of the 80s and how that affected everybody and all that stuff. I think this and incorporating the porn world in a limited way into the Hollywood world, and being an actress who's trying to is known for this one thing, known for X, but is trying to get into something else. I think you could get rid of Pearl, and X and MaXXXine would work just as well without Pearl.
Yeah,
because
sure.
Pearl only complements X. Where X works with all three.
Mm-hmm. And you could take Pearl out completely and just go right from X to MaXXXine.
Yeah, because MaXXXine, you could watch without seeing X, but it really most likely is required viewing.
Probably should. There are some people in our theater who they're like, we just chose this on a whim. What's going on? And just asked a passerby, what's this movie about? So I wonder how they liked it.
Because if you're watching this movie and it gets a scene where MaXXXine watches the tape from X,
sure.
Well, you go why is she so freaked out?
It's just a porno.
She's been in porn for a while. Yeah. She's known for porn. She shows up to the lot, and the guy at the gate is just like, "Yeah, I've seen your work. Yeah, good to see you." Or whatever.
And there's only one scene where you would get that explanation when she's talking to her manager, and then it cuts to him going, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Yeah. And I could see as an audience member, what? Tell me about it.
What's the thing? Yeah. So I was engaged the entire time, didn't look at my phone, dug it. I get the criticism with she has the friends or whatever, and they all die instantly, so you really don't get to know them. That didn't bother me so much because I was more intrigued as to this is her story. Because if you look back at X, even though you could tell just from the filmmaking clues that Mia Goth's or MaXXXine was the main character of X, she was really kind of doing the same thing of just being very quiet and not speaking a ton, where all the other people around her were so charismatic, especially the guy who's the main director of the thing. You kind of can easily sort of forget about her until she becomes the final girl. Where in this, she's front and center, so it's this is the first time she gets to, in the trilogy, be not the victim but the hero. She's being hunted by this killer,
she's being victimized.
She's being victimized, but she's I'm not playing the victim. Where the other two were very much and even in Pearl, she wasn't. She was the killer, but she was also a victim of her circumstances and the world at the time and stuff. So I think that's why I kind of dug this movie more too, because it took the girl who was the victim in the past too, and you made her the hero in this one, and I thought it was a bit more fun. But I agree. The movie really loses me in the last 15, 20 minutes or so, because it just being her. Let's get into spoilers now. The killer just being her dad, who's a leader of the cult, who just believes she's a sinner and stuff. I don't even know if
it's a cult. I think he was just a leader of a church.
Okay,
but he doesn't seem to have culty members around him.
Yeah, cult vibe.
Yeah.
Who are staging these killings to make it look like the Night Stalker, I guess, so they could do their stuff.
But they're just trying to convert them.
Yeah, and it's just
if the mask, if the cult people took off their mask and it was people she ran into throughout the movie, say it was her friend at the video store or one of the prostitutes, or oh, that's what they're doing. They're trying to recruit them, bring part of it, but everybody just got killed.
Yeah, even if it was one of the cops, it would have been way more interesting, because that's a character we met. To get this third act throw in of the dad, who you probably could have guessed was the person just from the first 30 seconds of the film, being the old footage of her as a kid,
sure,
and going yes, daddy, whatever you say. But we never met this man. We never saw him early in the movie, like secretly being in the background.
Yeah, showing up to her door like, honey, I found you finally.
Yeah, we have no emotional connection to this guy. I kept thinking I was waiting for it to be a director. She's like, I just needed to freak you out so I can get the realest performance out of you because I'm an artist. I thought it was going to be something like that. Or it was going to be one of the cops who's just like, yeah, I'm a real sick fuck who likes to do this kind of stuff. My partner would never suspect. That's why I can get away with it because I can stage a thing.
And I wanted to be an actor, and now I'm all jealous.
Yeah, I even thought it was at one point the like the coroner or whatever guy, the first guy they run into that shows them the corpses at the when they pull him out of the water. Just because that's an actor I've seen this stuff before. They're not going to waste him on this on these 2 lines, and they do.
Yep.
I thought he was going to come back because that guy's great and stuff. I apologize, I don't know your name, but yeah, just it being like this dude I've never seen before and have no emotional connection to, who I don't remember if he's even mentioned in MaXXXine other than maybe just like, I don't get along with my daddy anymore, so I don't see. It's like, well, that doesn't give us anything. So yeah, the last
standalone, the ending really is rough for anyone who hasn't seen the rest.
Yeah, it just feels like, well, we need it to be someone she emotionally connects to. The first person tell her she deserves to be a star, like he's the catalyst to her trajectory into porn that leads her to get this role in this movie. But you don't really feel any of that because you don't know this guy.
Yeah.
He's a villain you don't care about because you only meet him for 10 minutes. So that was kind of a shame because the movie, I think, could have been an A, but just kind of wrestles in the like B plus area for me because I did have a good time and I thought it was really well made. But the ending just kind of made a great film just okay.
So her dad kills her 2 friends. They're prostitutes and sex workers, or they're all sex workers. Porn stars and prostitutes.
And a video guy who sells that stuff.
Why did he kill him just because he sells that stuff? Really? That's it?
That's my guess.
I get the actress, I get the porn star, I get the prostitute, but you sell movies. It seemed more like
that he's a gay man. Because they're all sinners and degenerates or whatever.
I guess,
I mean, he doesn't necessarily. I don't think the movie says that very well, or maybe just I'm killing him to get closer to MaXXXine because for whatever reason.
See, I didn't even get gay from him. I know he says I'm the one guy that's not trying to get in your pants. I just assumed he wasn't into her.
I think the movie was saying he's a gay man.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that seems out of place and unnecessary. Like if he survived the attack and he was able to say, oh, MaXXXine, here's the information I got. I looked into, she asked him to look into the tape.
Yeah.
And where it was manufactured, doesn't go anywhere. We don't see him watch it and question anything. I think he needed to survive.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a couple of, let me give you some of my pitches of how to tighten up this movie. They have a lot of ideas and they wanted to do them all, and that was bad. So MaXXXine is like haunted by her past. But is she? It's like she only kind of just thinks about it once in a while now that this shit is coming up and like, oh yeah, that did kind of happen. Because she has a gun, she smashes that dude's balls.
I had to turn away. I couldn't watch it.
Oof.
As soon as I saw the heel go up, I was like, I know where this is going.
It was messy. It was disgusting.
I caught like a single frame of it, and I can feel my butt clench.
So she's able to defend herself. I think you go with the Night Stalker. He is killing people. Her friends end up being, it just so happens that they are the victims of him, and she is the one that takes him down. Mm-hmm. Simple as that. She's trying to get in the biz, but then everybody in her past is dying, and then you don't need the PI, and you have the 2 cops who are just after her, wanting to question. It's kind of weird that everybody around you, and it is just coincidence.
Okay.
2, MaXXXine has kind of gone off the deep end. She's doing whatever it takes to get these roles. Mm-hmm. She's doing good in auditions, but because of her past, other people are getting the roles. So she is actually killing these other actresses. She just is rubbing them out. She's killing these other actresses and just getting rid of her competition. And then when someone could send her the tape.
Now, as the audience, do we know she's the one doing it, or is this
I would
like,
think
oh,
so.
we think it's the Night Stalker or whatever, but really it's been her this whole time?
I think we do know it's her.
Okay.
Let's see. And then I think you can, if you did that version, she gets away with all of it. She gets the roles. She's in the movie, has a bright future, ends on a happy note. Then you follow up with another one. It's another couple years down the road. She's a certified scream queen. She's getting up there, so she's thinking of retiring. And then someone does send her the tape and is just going to try to blackmail her. If everything, maybe she's up for an actual award where she's not doing the blood and guts anymore. She's a legit actress and she could win an Oscar, but someone's looking to fuck that up for her by blackmailing her for this. And it could just be someone as simple as one of the cops who worked the crime scene on the X movie and just has that tape, and then eventually went, oh shit, 2 and 2 together. I never realized that was this person, and I just want to make some money. Something simple as that. I don't think you need to do all of it. I like the porno horror and satanic panic stuff. And if you had her father in the picture early, like he tracks her down through the PI, and he's the one that has all those rallies out in front of the studio. It's him. And, she's trying to tell him, like, Dad, you got to go away. You're hurting my chances here. They know we're related. They're not going to hire me if you keep doing this stuff. So maybe she starts killing his congregation or something. You take out just one element that they had and it tightens it up. Don't kill off her friends, or take out the fucking Night Stalker stuff and it's just this other killer, or take out the satanic panic and you have something else. It just feels a little messy because it has so many ideas, and then it just kind of falls apart at the end.
Yeah, I think because it seems like the whole franchise is about, like, what can I do to get famous? I think it'd be more interesting because it feels like in this movie the porn stuff is only in the background, because, like, yeah, we got the porn stuff in X, so we don't really need it in this film too much. But, like, what if this movie was about, like, okay, she wants to be a serious actress, she's going on auditions, her past is fucking with her because everyone knows she's coming from porn, and so no one's taking her seriously, or, like, she's getting auditions and they're going pretty well, but there's, like, oh, well, there's a follow-up audition, meet me at the hotel room. And then it becomes this thing of just like, oh, well, I can get these roles, but I don't want to blow my way to the top.
Sure.
Or should I? Because, like, I've been doing it for years. What's one
more
BJ or whatever. But then you have this, this killer who maybe is killing off these executive producers or these casting directors, and maybe it seems like MaXXXine is the one doing it, so that's why the cops are into it. So it's like, yeah, this guy tried to get me to this thing. It's like, oh, so you murdered him for it? It's like, no, I didn't. And then, maybe you have some flashbacks to the past with their dad. You could tie in the porn stuff a little more. I'm not saying you need to show nudity or her doing these things, because, like, all these movies have had some form of nudity. I don't need sex scenes in this movie or anything. I'm just saying, like, you have this thing, this element from your past that you're not necessarily ashamed of, but is haunting you in your in your future goals. Plus, you have this thing from this real thing from your past that is causing you harm, but is also, like, possibly getting you farther. And then
that traumatic thing is giving you the opportunity to kill people.
Yeah. So I think that's a more interesting story of just, you have these. If the story is will your past come back to haunt you, and how will it affect your future? And both can be bad or shameful or whatever, but maybe you need to confront those things so you can move forward and get the things you want. Because if all you want is stardom, but these two things won't let you have that, even if they're tools you can use to get farther, that's not how you want to go about it. So you need to confront them, so stop, or whatever it is, and you tie those two elements together in order to, it's like, okay, so I'm going to either use my porn skills to get ahead and hate myself for it, or I need to defeat this killer before he ruins any chance I have in Hollywood. And then you defeat him at the end, and you can still be the same sort of ending where it's like, oh, it turns out my father was the killer, and now that I stopped him, I got famous, and so it helped me with these roles or whatever. You can still do that ending, but as long as if you're having this villain who you have this connection to, you need to introduce that villain in some way. To make us care about why that villain's connection to her. So I think that would have been a more interesting story in terms of like commentary of women in Hollywood and women in show business and what it takes to get to the top and the quest for fame and all that kind of stuff. You just could have had more there, more meat to it, as opposed to just like what we got.
I think that idea, especially if she is seeing, oh, the Night Stalker is killing these people, killing my friends, killing people in my industry. Well, let's go after the people who really deserve it. The real predators up in Hollywood, and takes inspiration from him to do this. So cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this shit up. My fucking computer sucks.
So what'd you give this movie?
I gave it I think I gave it a B-.
Okay, and I'll give it a B.
It's a very good movie, but I think there'll be other horror movies. It's not the classic that I hoped it was going to be.
Sure.
Next week, the only thing I know that comes out is Longlegs. So excited for Longlegs.
It looks like it's going to scare me, but I'll watch it.
Maybe. We'll see. Your track record's not so great.
I know. I don't want to say yes and then not happen, but I'll try. Right. I'll try.
Well, if you want to get in contact... Jesus. If you want to get in contact with us, we are at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Twitter, or X. As always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
And keep consuming.